Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box Podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 374.
Yeah.
Hey, you lot. I hope you're keeping well and safe. We hope you've had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Indeedy. Welcome to 374. Hope you had a good one last week. Listen to the old 373. And yeah, we are smashing our way through the old classic Who reviews at the minute because we've done everything else. Essentially,
pretty much, yeah.
We've done the lot. So this week it's the Fifth Doctor, old Mr. Davidson. It's his turn. We haven't done him in so long. We mentioned last week, didn't we? I think it was like, what was
it's a year ago, wasn't it? Or over a year ago?
May or June last year. I think we last did a Fifth Doctor story. So it's been well overdue that we entertain the Fifth Doctor, Mr. Davison, for a little while. Did I say Davidson? I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Mr. Davison.
I didn't notice. You could have got away with it. I didn't notice.
Could have done, yeah. Should have kept my mouth shut. Anyway, after this one that we're doing, we have only got one left after that.
Only one Davo?
Yeah, Davo. It's the Planet of Fire after this week. Of course, it's Frontios this week for the review, and then after that, Planet of Fire. Yeah. So we're going to knock him off the list pretty soon. Do you know what? We're clinging on to old McCoy, mate. He's still there with one left.
Is it Battlefield? No, which McCoy have we got left?
The Curse of Fenric.
Curse of Fenric,
yeah.
That's the only one we've got left, is it?
That's it, mate. Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know what? I think it's even longer that we did a Seventh Doctor.
I feel like we haven't seen him in yonks.
Yeah. It's just purposely not done it so we don't have to say goodbye
No.
to Mr. McCoy. It wasn't 2022, bud. Oh, God. When was it?
What, we didn't do a McCoy at all last year?
Nope.
Really?
Yep. The last one we did. Oh, mate. This is tragic. Hold on. This can't be right. Hold on a minute.
Surely.
We must have done one. Hold on. 2022. Bear with, listener.
Did we not do? Yeah, sorry. Did we not do Battlefield or something?
Do you know what, mate? We haven't done. I'm not lying. This is the truth of the matter. We haven't done a Seventh Doctor story since. God, it can't be 2020.
No way! Come on, we've done. We must have reviewed the Seventh Doctor before then.
No,
surely.
we haven't, mate. No. 20. It must be 2019.
We better bung one on the schedule then. We better do.
Yeah, but that means saying goodbye.
Oh, I know. It's got to happen one day.
Oh, mate.
It's got to happen. Unless you want to save one for the bank.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because all the modern series we've done, apart from a few Christmas specials, isn't it? We've got a few Christmas specials left, and that's it. I think we've done all the modern series until we get onto the new stuff, obviously, which I can't wait to review.
Yeah.
That's one thing about, time's going so quick at the minute. I don't know if you feel this. Just feel like every day goes quicker than the last one. And the only good thing about that is that I know that we're getting closer to the 60th, because I'm so excited for like what we've got to come, and all the little bits that Russell's given us is really sort of teasing me. I was reading the page, his little production notes in Doctor Who magazine yesterday. It comes out today when we're recording it, but I got my subscription copy early. And it's just a page, and it just gives you, even the trailer is giving us new information, telling us there's little hidden things that we've missed, and the person going into the shop in the rain is a guest star. It's weird, because I did wonder who that was. He's like, no one's noticed it, but that's a guest star. And I'm thinking everyone's trying to guess who it is, because you can't really see their face. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to when we get to review that in November.
Cool.
That'll be cool. He did confirm as well that everything in the trailer is just from the first special.
Step.
He said there's nothing in it from the second special at all. So we haven't even seen anything from that yet, which is amazing to think.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Talking of Russell T Davies, we got to mention him in the news this week. We've only got one news story to go through, which we'll get on to in a second, and then we're on to our review of Frontios. So have you done anything cool, Doctor Who wise, this week, bud?
I did a cool little thing at the weekend. I went to the first Fantom event of the year. So I went to their January event, and it was very cool. They had Carol Ann Ford there, John Levine, Peter Purvis, Julian Glover, and this was quite cool, I think, really. They had Daniel Anthony, who, of course, played Clyde in Sarah Jane Adventures, and I haven't seen him do a convention. Well, I just haven't seen him do one. I don't know, he sort of disappeared. I think he went off and did other acting work and theatre work. But so that was great. So I finally got to meet Clyde, and he was a really lovely guy. Like, really, he just looked like he was beaming. He had a massive smile on his face all day. Really, really friendly and interactive. And he's 35, mate, and he still looks about 20 at the most. He still looks about 18. I don't know what genes he's got, what nano genes he's got in him, but everyone was saying he's 35 and he's got a kid and he's married and look at him. But yeah, a lovely chap. And I met Caroline Ford as well, who I haven't met before, but I want to get a nice picture with her. Got a lovely pic with her, and normally I can't think what to say to stars when I meet them. I get a bit, I don't know, starstruck's not the word, but I just can never really think what to say. I like to get my autograph and shuffle off. I don't like to hold up the queue or anything. But with Carol Ann, I obviously wanted to say the fandom, would love to see Susan come back. And I said, I'm sure a lot of people are saying this to you at the minute, but I just want to add my voice to it. And she said, tell them you want her to come back. And I was like, I will. I don't know who I'm going to tell, but I will. And I said, and one other thing I wanted to know is if Susan was to come back, whether the TV show would acknowledge what happened between Susan and the Eighth Doctor and Susan's son on the Big Finish audio. So I'm not going to go into what it was because it's major spoilers, but there was a big event which causes a bit of friction between Susan and the Doctor. Well, big friction, and it's kind of left like that. And I think it's such a big thing that I think it would be a shame to ignore it if Susan come back in the TV series, but also it's not the sort of baggage you want to dwell on. And basically she just went, well, what did she say? It's a big thing to ignore, isn't it? And I went, yes. So anyway, my inkling is, and I don't know anything. I haven't got any inside information, but I just feel like we might be seeing Susan in the new year. And it's just me. It's probably just me wishing it. But she started doing a lot of conventions recently. I just get the feeling, because Russell also, he put something on someone's Instagram, didn't he? Something like, yeah, whatever happened to Susan? Winky face. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know anything. I have no inside knowledge, but I have a hunch.
You have a hunch.
I would love to see her come back. I really, really would. And it would just be amazing, I think. So it's great to meet those guys. And some of the other guests there, like Peter Purvis, I'd met before, so I didn't meet them. But really nice event. And just great to see Daniel Anthony there. When I posted my pic later, because obviously we went to the pub afterwards and I'd had a few, I was posting my pics on the train on the way home. I didn't realise I'd done it, but in all the posts on my Facebook, I'd called him Anthony Daniels. And they were like, C-3PO was there. I'm like, what?
Bloody hell, mate.
I was like, oh, no, not Anthony Daniels. I mean Daniel Anthony.
See, that's the drink talking.
That's the drink talking, yeah.
Bloody
so,
hell.
C-3PO wasn't there, unfortunately. But Daniel Anthony was. So that was pretty cool. So I think I've met him. I've met Luke, I can't think of their real names. I only know him as the character name, Brani. I've met the three of them now.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So, Tommy Knight, isn't it?
Tommy Knight, that's
Luke, so, yeah. And then Gina Mahindri, I think that's their name. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. But apart from that, mate, not been up to a great deal, really. Just been pottering about.
Sweet.
Yourself?
It's a good one.
Been up to much?
No, I've not.
Cracking on with your rewatch?
I was going to say, yeah, I'm up to the Time Meddler. I've just finished episode 3 of the Time Meddler, a Battle of Wits.
Oh, yeah.
So I've got the last episode to watch of that, which I'll watch later. I think that's called... what's that fourth episode called? Checkmate. Yeah, I've got that to watch. So, yeah, I'm up to the end of... what is it, Series 2 now? Yeah, end of Series 2. So I'll be cracking on with Series 3, which unfortunately a load of stories are lost, aren't they, from Series 3?
Yeah.
It's plagued with lost episodes, so I'm not sure how to get through that bit. We also need to figure that out on the podcast, dude, how we're going to get through reviewing some of those.
Yeah, because we've got loads of Troughton episodes left that we haven't done, but a lot of them don't exist at all. Yeah. So I don't know what we're going to do there. I guess we'll just have to, I don't know, not do them. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? So yeah, just going through the rewatch. And any Star Wars peeps listening? You mentioned Anthony Daniels, C-3PO. Bagged my ticket for Star Wars Celebration in April, so I'll be going to that, which is good. So if anyone listens and you're a Star Wars fan and you got a ticket as well, we can put the Star Wars fans' backs up a bit and talk Doctor Who at the old Star Wars convention. But otherwise, dude, no events for me, nothing else other than a bit of a rewatch through the old classic years, which is going well.
Where is the Star Wars convention? Is it Olympia? No, not Olympia. What's it called?
No, it's at the Excel.
That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah.
It's where they hold the MCM events.
Yes.
Those cheeky buggers who got the exclusive license for that. Let's not go down, because we talk about the Showmaster stuff, don't we?
London Film and Comic Con. Prices. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Anyway, the old falling apart, like when you walk around the Olympia 2, where London Film and Comic Con is, like some of the doors are held together with sellotape, and one of the aircon units is super glued back on the wall, and the carpet's all mashed up. Anyway,
brown and manky.
Yeah, so the MCM guys, they fair play to them for bagging the old popular culture convention exclusivity contract with the Excel. Very good. It's a much better venue, that.
Yeah, it's much nicer. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, shall we crack on with the review?
Yeah,
not the review. No. Whoa.
We've got some news, haven't we?
Got some news to talk through. Sorry, Mr. Davies, you're going to have to wait a bit longer. We've kept you waiting for nearly a year. You can wait a little bit longer. But before we crack on with the news and the review, though, if this is your first time listening to the Big Blue Box, then welcome aboard. If you're one of the long-time listeners, one of the grizzled ancients, then welcome back. It's good to have you all here. Make sure that you are following or subscribing to this podcast in your preferred podcast app of choice. That way you won't miss an episode when it lands every single Friday. You can also listen for free over on the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk, and you can you can read and check out all of the cool articles and reviews from our writing team. And one dropped this morning, actually. Jordan Shortman, he's been going through all of those old, the old Virgin Adventures books from back in the day.
Yeah.
He's reviewed a ton of those, and he dropped a new one this morning for a couple of stories. Sanctuary by David McKinsey, and Human Nature by Paul Cornell. So go and check those reviews out. Plus, like, the writing team are so cool.
They are.
They put a load of cool stuff over there. So go and check those out. We're on the socials too: Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Links on the website. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, so come and get involved over there. And we have a very cool free Discord server as well. The link is on the website. Hop in there and chat Doctor Who with lots of other very cool Who fans. And don't forget to remember to check out my co-host channel. It's YouTube, this one. It's the Geek's Handbag.
Yeah, the Geek's Handbag. Also on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And I have one video on TikTok.
Yes, he's dipped his toe in the water over on TikTok. So go and show him some love over there. And stalk him on the socials too. Yeah,
that one video, yes.
Rightio, buddy. Let's progress through the time vortex, wherever you want to, let's imagine we're flying through the star vortex from Pertwee's intro that we spoke about the other day in the Tardis, and let's do this bit of news. So, as you mentioned earlier on in the waffle, the segment in the latest issue of Doctor Who magazine with Mr. Davies, he seems to be just all over the place at the minute. He
really does.
It seems like every other day, when we're doing a bit of research for what's happening in the world of Doctor Who, his name has been knocking around. So we're not going to cover every story, but there was one story that caught my eye, which does sound very, very cool. And that is Mr. Davies would like all of Doctor Who to be on the BBC iPlayer, which is really cool. So he was interviewed about something else completely, but as is the case with anything to do with Doctor Who. So this was, I can't quite believe this actually, but Russell T Davies and Mark Gatiss, they've worked together again, and they've got a new TV show out called Nolly.
Yeah.
And the reason why I can't believe that is because these guys must be so busy, like especially Russell with Doctor Who. And we know that Russell's been working on Doctor Who for at least a year, at least. Yeah. So he either did this with Mark ages ago, or he's just found a magical way of only having like 2 hours sleep every day. I'm not sure. Anyway, those guys were being interviewed for something not Doctor Who related, but as inevitable as it always happens, the subject of Doctor Who comes round, and they asked him about the back catalogue. They're like, look, this is all great that you're back for Doctor Who. You know, it's great that you're ushering in a new era and that you've been involved since the reboot and all that sort of stuff. But what about the old stuff that people might not necessarily know about unless you want to drop some money on the old DVDs or the Blu-ray collections that are slowly trickling out every year? And he basically said, you have to make the back catalogue available on iPlayer. That's the first thing that we need to do. He says, I can't swear that will happen. He said, but there are contracts in place, obviously. He says, but it's our heritage. It deserves to be there so that kids can fall in love with Doctor Who like they love Friends. So he's making a reference to Friends because that just gets constant repeats on TV, on Netflix, everywhere. You can, it's available everywhere, basically. So he's essentially saying that Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, should be treated in the same way. Now, we can't obviously do too much at the moment, I don't think, because of those contracts that he mentions. But one thing that was quite clever that he said there was, you make all of the back catalogue available first on iPlayer. And he goes on to say that episodes from everything are available to stream on BritBox. He says, which is great. He said, but our hope is to make them available for free on iPlayer. And that's the second thing that I sort of latched onto, because BritBox is a paid subscription service, obviously. Yeah. So if you want to watch classic Doctor Who and you don't own the physical media, you have to pay BritBox to do that. Now, that's nothing wrong with that in itself. You know, that's a thing. But these two things do kind of make sense. And the reason why I picked out his comment about available first is because I can foresee in however many months or years to come, when these contracts that he mentions are sort of coming up for renewal or coming up to expire, that I reckon we could see the full catalogue of Doctor Who on Disney Plus. I can see that.
Yeah, I can
coming.
see that.
Yeah. So I think Russell is basically saying, look, let's make everything free first on iPlayer, because obviously here in the UK especially, the home of Doctor Who is of course the BBC, and the BBC is, you know, they run iPlayer and all that stuff. So that would be the first step into making it. It's not technically free, is it? Because you need the license, you need a TV license to watch iPlayer. Technically, quote unquote. Yeah. So it's not technically free, but you're not paying a subscription service to something like BritBox when you only want to watch Doctor Who, I think is, you know, the point he's making. So I think we could see everything on Disney Plus at some point, especially if this new stuff goes well. If the ratings for Doctor Who just go, you know, through the roof, globally on Disney Plus as well as here in the UK on the TV, on the telly box, I reckon that could be a thing. And then secondly, his comment around kids falling in love with it like Friends and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's such a good point to make, because when you look at a lot of the successful TV shows that have been around for the last, 10 years, for example, things like The Big Bang Theory, Friends, you know, all of those big shows, you can just see that they've got the repeat value on those. They'll be with us for decades, literally, probably, I don't know, 20, 30 years, we'll still be watching Friends repeats and The Big Bang and whatever other you know, like Game of Thrones, you know, all these things that are just, you can just play them forever. There's no reason why Doctor Who, even classic Doctor Who, should not be included in that same bucket, if you like, because even something like Doctor Who has just got such a larger vault of amazing content. I'm not saying that Friends didn't, and those sort of things, the Big Bang, they ran for a long time, but come on now, Classic Who has just got such a massive thing. So anyway, dude, Russell, I think he's going to have a little bit of a push to get everything related onto iPlayer, which is amazing. And he seems to be the man that's got a bit of influence as well with the execs at the BBC. So I think if he wants it to happen, I think he could. I think he's got the clout, if you like, and the muscle. So what say thee? You up for this on iPlayer?
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way of putting it, as where he's got the clout, because he's definitely quite powerful within the TV industry at the minute, isn't he? It would be great. I think the more people that can access Classic Who, the better. It's strange how I always assume that people have seen it, if that makes sense. Like, very often friends will say to me, so for example, actually, our friend Morgan, when we last went to see the BFI event, we went to see the Time Meddler, which you were talking about earlier, and I said, this is a cracking story, isn't it? And he went, I've never seen it. I'm like, you haven't seen the Time Meddler? And it's just a shock that in my head, I just naturally think any friend of mine that's a Doctor Who fan has seen them all.
They're not friends much longer.
And that's right, out of here. But it's just this natural assumption that they've got them all. But of course, not everyone's got all the DVDs or BritBox, and if you haven't, then they're probably buying the Blu-ray sets. But like you said, they're coming out quite slowly. So there's probably a lot of people out there that would love to dive in to some Classic Who. And also, I think about when they all went on Twitch, and they were hugely popular, weren't they? Is it Twitch? Am I thinking the right thing? Is that what it's called? Yeah, they were hugely popular and introduced a lot of Doctor Who fans that grown up with from Eccleston onwards, that had never seen them before and were just loving it and fascinated by it and couldn't believe how different it is and how different television was made from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, So, I would love to see them on the iPlayer, and I agree with Russell. I think it would be great if they were on there for people to look at, to watch.
Yeah, defo.
Yeah.
And we're not going to go into too much detail because it's kind of confirmed, but not, if you know what I mean. But Russell did mention in another interview that he did that the spin-offs are looking pretty likely to happen now. But there's just no stamp of, yes, here's the first announcement for a spin-off of Doctor Who. It's just Russell basically saying that he wants the spin-offs to return, and he felt like when he was running the show before that he always believed in them, which is why he was so keen to create Sarah Jane and Torchwood, etc. So, but he also acknowledges that in around 2008, when he left, he could see why the decline in the spin-offs happened, because the budgets were being cut all the time and all that stuff. So, he basically says, we're ready for Doctor Who to, and he quotes, time for the next stage of the Whoniverse. And that's on its way. So there's still no official, we're having spin-offs, definitely, but it's looking pretty likely, dude. But when we get more news on that stuff, we'll dive into that a bit more. But yes, as you said, mate, Russell just dropping just a ton of hints all over the place.
He's all over it.
He's all over it, which is cool. So there we go. We might see all of Doctor Who, the complete catalogue, on iPlayer at some point in the near future, which would be very cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I'd absolutely love to see it.
Rightio, bud. Let's crack on with the old review. What we got this week?
Come on then, let's get Davo out of the Tardis. So we haven't seen the Fifth Doctor in a while, and this week we're reviewing the story Frontios.
We're being dragged towards the planet.
Help me! Sucked into the earth in front of my eyes.
Doctor, do something!
Don't panic.
Frontios buries its own dead.
There's something going on here, isn't there?
I think your colony of Earth people is in grave danger of extinction.
The Tractators need living flesh. They need minds, as well as bodies.
It is useless to hide. We have you completely in our control now.
I know what they are!
I know what they're trying to do.
They are the appetite beneath the ground.
Hold on, Doctor, I'll give you a hand!
No, stay back!
Tardis has been destroyed.
You will never leave Frontios now.
Oh, I love Davison's voice at times, you know. You know, when he's got that kind of... something bad has happened, but he's still got that calm, like... He's like this. The TARDIS has been destroyed. He's got that kind of deep, breathy... It's very cool. Yeah, that's... Anyway.
That's a great trailer. That's a great trailer, by the way. Sounds very exciting. Makes the sort of story sound epic.
It does, yeah. It's
Maybe
needed.
it is. Let's find out.
It needs a trailer like that for sure. The TARDIS has been destroyed. Anyway, Frontios was first broadcast. This is a four-parter. It was first broadcast back on the 3rd of February 1984 and finished up on the 26th of February That's incorrect, isn't it? It was first broadcast on the 26th of January 1984 and finished up, thankfully, for all of the people who are in a relationship at the time, who were in a relationship at the time, fearing for their lives that Valentine's Day would have been a Doctor Who fest. It finished before that, on the 3rd of February 1984. Wow. It was written by Christopher Bidmead, directed by Ron Jones, and stars Peter Davison, Janet Fielding, Mark Strickson, and a reasonable supporting cast. And the synopsis for this one is: Frontios buries its own dead, or so the saying goes. The Doctor, Turlough and Tegan are forced into landing on the remote planet of Frontios, a human colony where deaths go unaccounted for. Under constant threat from lethal meteorite bombardments, few of the doomed colony members realise that the ground of Frontios itself opens up and devours the unwary. Not permitted to assist, the Doctor's attempt to leave is thwarted when the unimaginable occurs. The TARDIS is destroyed. All the while, burrowing undetected below the planet's crust, an alien force prepares a final and gruesome fate for all humanity. It all sounds very epic.
It does.
And big, adventurous. So what say you on Frontios, dude? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a funny one, this, isn't it? It's a funny, it's an odd little story, this one. It sticks with me for so many reasons that I'll go into, but there are so many things I like about it, but it doesn't really hang together. And I do get quite bored in the middle. There's so much running around the cave and going back and forth and getting dragged in by tractators and then escaping and getting dragged in, and it plods on in the middle. But it's a shame because it starts off really strong, I think. I think episode 1's great, actually. When I put it on last night, having not watched this for quite some time, once I finished episode 1, I thought, actually, maybe this is going to be better than I thought. That's quite a good start, you know. The TARDIS lands, you've got a bit of world building, which is quite decent. You've got this unusual looking planet. It's dark and grimy, which is unlike 80s Who, so it feels a bit gritty. You've got these sort of explosions where bits of rock are being shot across the screen. You've got the Doctor jumping in and saving someone and saying you're not to let them know I was here. And I thought there's some actually really good stuff going on here. Then episode 2, it kind of starts getting a bit ploddy when we meet the tractators, and then it plods on a bit after then, and they throw some interesting stuff in there, and then we get the sort of conclusion, which is a bit unsatisfying. And it's a shame because it just pitters out, really. And I feel the script was just too ambitious for the budget of 80s Doctor Who. And I feel like there's some great elements. I think Chris Bidmead has put some fascinating ideas in there. I mean, I absolutely love the idea of the TARDIS being fragmented under the earth. That's the bit that stuck with me since I was a kid. I absolutely loved that when I was a child, and I still love it now. I just kind of wish they'd brought it in a little bit earlier because it's literally at the end of the story. And I find the end scene weirdly directed as well, because the story's it's trying to be quite dark and gritty, I feel, for the most of it. Then you get the end scene where Davison's almost playing it for comedic effect. He's like, "Oh no, Gravis, please, don't do that. Don't touch that dial." And then you've got Gravis whirring around. "Oh, I will have it." And then he slumps on the console, and it's just funny more than it's just comedic. And I think it's an odd tone compared to the rest of the episode. So Yeah, it's an odd one, mate. There are so many things I like about it, you know, and I think it's an ambitious story, but it doesn't hold together, unfortunately. It's got great potential that isn't realised, and I think the reasons for that are mainly down to budget and probably the times, you know, the timing. I mean, they were under great pressure to get this filmed in 6 days, and they talk about it on the making of that. There are scenes where, I mean, I hadn't noticed them till they point them out, but there's scenes where Turley says we react to an explosion that you don't see because the cannon didn't go off. And they're like, it's fine, carry on. Don't worry about it. We'll sort it out. We'll put a sound effect on. And they're like, okay. And there's a bit where the guy falls backwards and puts his foot through the set, which I hadn't noticed. And apparently he said at the time, should we do that again? They're like, no, that's fine. No one's going to notice. And I didn't, to be fair. So, yeah, they were very much against the clock. I think that's probably hasn't helped as well. So, but yeah. It's I like it, but it's not good. Does that make sense? Like, I like what the idea, I like the ambition behind it, but it doesn't hold together very well, and I find myself getting very bored in the middle of it. And yeah, I like the beginning and end, and that's about it, really.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. It's boring, isn't it?
It is. It does get boring. Did you not think Ep 1 was good, though? Because I really liked episode 1.
It was very cool.
Or were you bored from the beginning?
No. Episode 1 was very cool.
Yeah. Davo's great in it, isn't he? I thought he was really good.
Yeah, and it's a strange old one, this, because more often than not, when we have a story that's a bit slow and ploddy, and if we ever use the word boring for some stories, you normally find that it picks up in the finale.
Yeah.
Whereas this one doesn't, for me, because all the stuff that you have in the finale, bar the bit where the Tardis is coming back together a little bit. Other than that bit, the things that are happening predominantly in episode 4, we've already seen in the past 2 episodes, where, like you said, there's a lot of running around corridors in the underground, running away from the tractators, and then they get captured, and then you get rescued, and you run. So that happens an awful lot. But then you would think that in the last episode, they'd stop doing that and they would build up and have something else, but it's not. It's really only the last 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes of that episode where the Doctor tricks him into, firing up a couple of bits in the TARDIS. It comes back together, and then he sort of flops unceremoniously onto the console, and and so you have this sort of comedic little anticlimactic bit at the end. And that's it, really. It kind of ends very much as it starts, which is cool. It comes full circle. So the guy that who's seemingly in charge on Frontios, the guy that mysteriously just passes out a lot.
Yeah, he's got a weird name in it, Plag Tanknet or something, is it?
Yes.
You mean him?
Yeah, Plantagenet.
Yeah.
He's like mega friendly with the Doctor at the end, and they're all having a chat, and it's quite comical in a way. And the Doctor leaves him the coat stand, and
that blooming coat stand,
and then they're off. So it's got a nice kind of isolated little feel to it, and he leaves the planet, in a much better way, as you would expect him to have done. And although the time, he's fearful of the Time Lords knowing that he's interfered with any kind of human stuff, so. He's like, he's basically saying, make sure you don't mention this to anyone, which is ridiculous, really, because, the entire planet knows that mysterious travelers turned up in a blue box to say,
Yeah, so he does it every week. I mean,
yeah. But the problem is the bit in between. Like, as soon as you get past episode 1, the other episodes are very, just very ploddy. There's not even, I hate saying it, but there's not even any nice little moments. In some stories when it's, as I mentioned, when it slows down a bit, sometimes you have these lovely little scenes with characters who have a conversation, especially the Doctor with somebody, but you don't even really get much of that. It's just a lot of running around and shouting, and especially from Mark Strickson in this one. I mean, Turlough, I don't know what they were thinking when they wrote his character, but he just gets slapped around all over the place. He doesn't really. he loses the plot for a little bit when he first sees the Tractators, and he's out of it, and he's in a trance, and he's wide-eyed and
foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, they're trying to snap him out of it, and he's not having it. And then the next time we see him in the cave underground, he's yelling his face off, and then he faints again, and then you have to carry him around. So, like, you know, for him, like, the Doctor doesn't even slow things down. It's not written for him to slow it down and just have a nice conversation with Turlough and give him a little bit of a confidence boost and like, dude, you know, everything's fine. You know, we're gonna get through it. He's just happy for him to just be flailing all over the place. And we don't even get too much of a bite back from Tegan with the Doctor either. There's a couple of bits where she's snappy with him, but there was the perfect opportunity for Chris Bidmead to write a beautiful tirade of abuse. There's a bit where the Doctor basically says to the Tractators, she's an android, she's a robot, you know, and he's like, oh well, it's very convincing, you know, and he's like, yeah, it's, you know, they've got it down apart from the walk. She walks a bit funny, and you can see her seething, like her eyes are wide, and she's angry. That was the first opportunity to have one of those absolutely brilliant classic Tegan, like, just going off on one.
Yeah, because he says the accent's not quite right.
The accent's not quite right.
That did make me laugh.
Yeah, and the walk's not. They haven't really got the walk right. Basically saying that she's, you know, she's a bit of an idiot. And Gravis is like, oh, he's bought into it. He's like, okay, cool. But then the next time you see the Tegan and Doctor alone, the Doctor and Tegan alone, she's just all cool with it. She's like, oh, well, what do we do? Let's carry on. So it just seems a bit out of whack. And the thing that I can't get my head around as well is at the time when this was going out and Davison was being interviewed and the cast and everything, Davison had said that he really liked this story. And
did he?
Tegan and Matt Strickson had all said that this is one of their favourite stories of the Fifth Doctor's run. And Davison had said that he was really happy that they had finally, quote unquote, got hold of how he saw this part of the Doctor and how he wanted to play the Doctor. And Strickson had said that it was clever and frightening and gave him a chance to do some real acting, quote unquote, and all that stuff. And then you fast forward in time to the DVD commentary, and Davison and Eric Sayward are like, this is beep. The story could have been a two-parter, and it's boring and all the rest of it. So within hindsight, even Davison comes round to the notion that it's a bit it's a bit rubbish. So it's a funny old story, like you said, isn't it? Because from a classic Who perspective, it's got some good ingredients. You know, it's got it's got the alien threat under the ground, which they've done a few times in Who at this point, and they continue to do that into even the Silurian concept, you know, in modern Who and all the rest of it. It's got some very cool set design, and the costumes are good. You must love the security forces costumes, mate, straight out of Blake 7.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's just dig those old Blake 7 costumes out, and no one will notice.
Yeah, the Federation troops from Blake 7.
Yeah,
so, you know, so it's got some great old school sci-fi. Also, we say old school. You know, we're not talking 60s, 70s classic, but we are talking sort of mid-80s. So it's all there, but it just doesn't quite, I don't know. It's like you've got all the great ingredients to make a lovely cake, but it comes out just sunken and burnt and
yeah, that's right.
Not quite edible.
When you taste it, it's just a bit... It's
a weird analogy, you know what I mean? But anyway, what do you think to the Tractators? Let's get through some of the core elements. And as an alien, as a threat, as a monster, the giant woodlice, what do you reckon?
The problem is they look so rubbery. Like, I bet the drawing of them probably looked quite interesting. You know, like in concept, they probably looked good on paper, but you know, they are like the classic rubbery Doctor Who monster, and they're so badly shot the director, I think, has got to take a bit of blame for this story not being
Ron
as good as
Jones.
it maybe could. Yeah, sorry to say. I mean, the way he shoots the sets as well, which are actually, I think the sets are pretty decent for 82. I think the sets are great, actually. The planet, the spaceship, but the way they're shot, I mean, that bit where they walk out on the spaceship and it's just a white, I think it's supposed to be the sky, is it? I mean, it just looks so overlit, and it's, I have to say the director has got to take a bit of blame for this. Although apparently he was a lovely guy. They all say that on the making of, but even they said he didn't quite get the story. But going back to the Tractators, I mean, they're so badly shot. You can see them, you can almost see the feet of the actors underneath the rubbery suits, can't you? They're almost sort of an inch off the floor, and you can see the bottom of the costume just, waving about and stuff. So yeah, they don't look great on screen. I don't think there's any shot that looks great. The only thing I can say in their defence is that going back to when I was a kid, that I loved them. I think that's why this story stays in my head, because I just found them creepy and fascinating. But yeah, I'm going to put that down to being very young when I watch this, because I look at them now and they look terrible. And when one of them's getting beaten up, the poor thing, and they're hitting it, and you can hear the rubbery suit, and they're really trying not to hit it as well. They don't look great.
Yeah.
They don't look great.
And
also when Jarvis is doing his thing at the end where he's going ooh in the TARDIS and moving his arms around, because they're so restricted with their arms, aren't they? Having those little arms just makes them so... I mean, what could they actually do to you? I suppose they've got the tractor beam. That's a nice thing, that they could use that. But otherwise, they're not that scary, really.
No, it's true. They're a little bit...
What do you think of the design of them? Do you like them at all, or do you think they look awful?
No, I think they look ridiculous, mate. I think they could have looked. They could have looked pretty sweet, but the problem I have with them is that you're right. It's the arms, That's So, I guess that's part of the design, though, right? They're not physically. No, I don't think they're designed to rough people up physically. They use the tractor beam ability. That thing to freeze people and all that stuff. There's that brilliant scene, isn't there, when one of them turns on Turlo and he starts to be dragged over the rock.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that part of it's very cool, but I don't know why they put massive ears on them.
Yeah, they have, haven't they?
So if you look at them from the front, it's not a flattering view.
They have, yeah.
I don't know why they did that. So they've got this cool menacing insectoid kind of thing going on. It's kind of cool, but then they've got these massive ears. They almost look. Who was that puppet from the 80s on British TV that had the big ears? What was his name? I can't remember. Anyway, there was a children's TV character. He had a bubble hat on.
I think I do know what you mean. Yeah. Bod.
Was it Bod?
No, not Bod. No.
Someone like that, anyway. You'll know who I mean. Any UK listener that was born in the 70s or 80s will know. But for some reason, whenever they made modern versions of these, like the Robert Harrop version of this figure, for some reason they made the ears bigger. So
bigger?
Yeah, the ears look huge on them.
Oh dear.
So yeah, that's the thing that makes it very comical for me.
Yeah.
They've got these big
the hands.
Roland rat ears on the side of these tractors. So yeah, not terrible.
Is there any way they could have made them look good on screen, do you think? Is there any... Because I was wondering if maybe they'd shot them a bit closer up, or even if they'd have added some sort of water or slime to them to make them look a bit gross. But they look so plasticky. I think they're not plasticky. They look so rubbery. I think that's the thing. And they're so... when they're in shot, they're very often in shot as the whole body. So you can see, as I said, you can just see it. It's just a man in a big rubbery suit. But do you think there's any way they could have shot them to make them look good? Maybe if they were in the dark. I mean, it's quite... To be fair, the sets in that are quite dark and dimly lit, which is unusual for Doctor Who at this time. But even then, I think they still look a bit exposed in the outfits. So,
yeah, I think, I mean, it does go off course a little bit with the directions. That's one good thing, is that it's not just a fully lit scene or set, should I say. They haven't just whacked every light on that they could find. There are, some of the scenes, especially underground with the tractators, are are fairly dark and stuff like that, which is why, in contrast, it really highlights how iffy they look when what's his face ends up in the TARDIS at the very end. Because Gravis, the TARDIS set is so bright as you would expect.
Yeah.
And so that highlights, I mean, for the first time, you could see just how much fur was coming out of the sort of plates on the back of it, which you didn't really see. So yeah, I'm not sure much that it could have done. I mean, for me, what they should have, I don't know. It's the whole walking sleeping bag thing as well that doesn't help.
Yeah, it is a bit. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If they'd have made them more humanoid, which, I don't know. It's very difficult to criticise when the designers on this stuff were, trying to do a great job. So it's hard to criticise, but yeah.
What I find weird is Ron Jones has kind of, I think, shot them quite badly. And then you get their funny, what's that machine called? The excavating machine or whatever it is that's got the human in it. That weird machine that they're using. And it's got that guy with all the wires around him and stuff. And I, again, as a kid, found that so creepy. And it's very tightly shot. So you only see the front of it, the excavating machine with all the blades around the edge and stuff. I thought that is a creepy thing. Now, I saw a photo. So they always do the photo galleries on the DVD. And you see the side of that in the photo, which you never see on screen. Apparently, they thought it looked awful. But it looks pretty good in the photo. So at the side of that, it's quite a long machine. And it's got two humans at the side of it, like two torsos plugged into it. I think it looks really creepy and horrible. And I'm very surprised they didn't show that at all on screen, or at least I didn't notice it. Because I think they felt, according to the making-of documentary, that it looked so bad that the director tried to shoot it from a way that just showed the guy at the front and made it look better. But I don't know. I think that was such a wasted opportunity, because judging by the photos and the little outtake they've got, it's a shame we don't see that. It's just very creepy having these two just tops of two bodies in the side of it, if you like, two torsos. So I don't know what was going on. I think the directional choices are a bit questionable in this, just overall, really. I read you do. So I think Ron Jones, he wasn't really, Doctor Who was his first job as a director. And he had kind of found his feet a little bit because he'd done some stories before this. So Black Orchid, Time Flight, Arc of Infinity before Frontios, and then he did two after that, Vengeance on Varos and Mind Warp. So, but the problem is he had no experience prior to that with unless you count those few stories from Doctor Who. So he actually he was just a production manager before that and a researcher on things like Blue Peter, and he was production manager on Bergerac of all things before that. But he did like an internal thing. So the BBC were crying out for directors. So he did the BBC's own internal directors course. So he did that. And when he finished, they were like, so do you want to do Doctor Who? So he's like, oh, of course. So he's fresh into the whole world of directing. So, and I think as a result, you kind of get these moments in a story, because it happens in Black Orchid a lot, which is understandable, I think, for that one, because that was his first outing as a director, where you have these scenes where the framing doesn't quite look as it should. So I think maybe the camera operators or the cinematography, like, they're having conversations about how to frame something, and I think he's like, well, we need to get in tighter. And so as a result of that, you lose some of the detail that's at the edges of the set a little bit and what's going on, which I think is what's happening with the excavation machine, and especially in the TARDIS feels really claustrophobic when they're filming those scenes. I mean, normally when you see the center console and they're standing around it, you're normally framing that a little bit wider, so you can see that I think it's almost an illusion that you want to put across to the viewer, where when you're outside of the TARDIS, you're looking at this very small box, obviously. And then when you go inside the TARDIS, it's this big, well, quite a large room and expanse. But for when he's framing that, the center console is quite large in the middle of the screen. And then you've got
the actors who are quite tight around it. And it does. And so I think for that reason alone, it happens a lot as well in the outside, supposedly the outside bits as well, where everything's very contained, small, and it provides a little bit of claustrophobia. Now, artistically, you could argue that that's intentional, and that provides a little bit of tension as you're watching it. However, you sacrifice some of the cool stuff that's been designed that you don't quite see in the shot. So, just to caveat this, of course, we're not directors, we're not experts, but it just feels that way as you're watching through some of his stories, especially Black Orchid as well. It's the same with that.
I think that Davison and Eric Saywood do kind of say that on the making of as well. So I don't think, although, like you said, we're not directors, I think they also point out that he wasn't that experienced, and Peter Davison said something along the lines of, there were shots where he just basically sort of, like we often say, just pointed the camera and said that's good enough, sort of thing, and very much against the clock. But Davison said he was such a lovely man. He said he hates to say anything bad against him because he was a very nice person to work with, and he created a great atmosphere on set. But he was still sort of learning his trade, and he didn't really sort of quite get a grip of how to shoot it. And Eric Saywood, who's a bit more blunt, what does he say? He says he was a very nice man. But what was it Eric said? I can't. Oh, something about being, too nice that people just walked all over him. Basically, he should have stood his ground more or something. I don't know. Yeah. So you get the feeling that he was probably created a nice atmosphere. It was fun to go to work, but didn't really get the best results on screen. I think that's what if you put what Eric and Peter are saying together, that's what they're trying to get at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can see that there's a little bit of inexperience in just the way that he's got some of the crew members to sort of action stuff around the set as well. Like you mentioned, somebody puts their foot through the set, and there's a bit right at the beginning as well. So when Revere is laying on the ground and all the gravel around him, and you see these little holes appear in the ground around him, there's a scene where it's either the crew members' hands, their fingers.
Yeah, it's all fingers, yeah.
But they're wearing bright red gloves.
I noticed that, yeah.
So he's popping his hand up to sort of, help the gravel sort of slip down into this hole that they've created underneath the set floor.
Yeah.
But as a director, he's not picking up on that stuff, he's like, because if it was like a little tiny bit, like if the crew member had black or brown gloves on, and it was very, very difficult to see, you could kind of get away with it because you see that sort of stuff in Who all the time, like the boom mic pops into frame sometimes and all that stuff. You see like the shadow on the ground of like camera opera, all that stuff. But the fact that they had bright red gloves on, you don't even have to look at the playback afterwards to notice it. Surely looking through the camera or anybody could see these fingers poking up through the ground. Yeah. So, it's that those little bits where, as a more experienced director, would have been like, whoa, stop. What's going on here? We can see these bright red bloody fingers coming up. Reset this, But he just
bright
goes
red marigolds.
Yeah. So anyway, bless him, Ron Jones. We've had, to his credit, we've had stories that have been directed worse than this.
Oh yeah, it's not by.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not the worst by a long shot. No.
Yeah. So Ron, while you're not up in our, favourite stories in terms of direction, we've seen worse, buddy. So
yeah.
Okay, so production-wise, it's a little bit iffy in places. Story-wise, it's fairly simplistic. Aliens underneath the Earth, they want the planet back. Humans don't want to give it up, so they've got this plan to kill them all, essentially. So that's fairly simplistic. Some cast members then, which are pretty sweet. What did you think? So the guy that we first see, Chief Brazen. What a dude that was, eh? So Brazen, played by Peter Gilmore. Yeah. He's chewing the wood, isn't he?
He is. I feel like, when people say they seem like they're in a different production to everybody else, that's pretty much how I would describe him. Kudos for giving it a bit of gusto. Is that the word? You know, I can tell he's going for a bit of a performance here and giving it something, but doesn't quite fit in with everyone else's acting. I don't know. Yeah,
he's a bit
unintentionally funny.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just about to say. Yeah, he's very comical in the way he delivers his lines. He's almost like he wants everyone to stop what they're doing to appreciate the grand delivery.
Yes, is it grand delivery?
Yeah, it's almost Shakespearean in the way that he sort of creates this space around him. You know, he sort of puts his hands on his hips and he creates space, and then he wants silence while he's delivering his lines. And and because of that, I'm so sorry. Because of that, it kind of throws the pacing out a little bit. So there's a few scenes where, he's roughing up Tegan because she's discovered the filing cabinet drawer, which is just unlocked for everybody to see, the unaccounted deaths and all that stuff. He's roughing her up a little bit. And there's a scene where they're in the tunnels and he's trying to locate Plantagenet, and he's very up in your face and shouting, but because he wants to have that sort of on-screen presence where he's being very theatrical, he almost subconsciously creates this silence before and after his lines, so nobody can sort of jump in and have this sort of very quick to and fro because tensions are high. He sort of, I don't know, he just creates this air of like, I'm speaking for a moment. I've delivered my line. Now and everybody can sort of get back into the rhythm and stuff. So obviously a lovely guy, but it just throws the pacing and the rhythm out just a wee bit.
Very theatrical. I was just thinking, if you ever got him and Michael Robbins, Richard Mace from Visitation, if you ever got him and Michael Robbins in a production together, no one would get a word in, would they? It'd be the theatrical farce of the year, I think. Yes. But it's fun to have him in it, but it's just, I don't know, something about his performance is just, like you said, just chewing the scenery to bits.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The problem is that he wasn't in Z-Cars, so... That's your issue there, mate.
Well, that's where, he needed to be on that to ground him.
Indeedy, yeah. Although he was in a couple of Carry On films, so we'll let him off.
Oh, was he? Oh, okay.
Yeah. What did you think to... who was the old guy with the glasses and his daughter was a bit naughty, leading the revolution?
I quite liked him. Is that Range? Was
William Lucas, yes.
Yes, Range. Yeah, I quite liked him, I felt like he was taking it quite seriously, and... yeah, I think he kind of suited the part.
He was playing it quite serious, wasn't he? And most people were, to be fair, other than the supporting crew cast members. The guys that were just knocking around in the helmets and
the
stuff. The
ones that get into a bit of a fight, but it's such a weak fight. Those ones.
There's a scene where they're sort of overpowering the Tractators. And instead of using their weapons, as you'd expect, they just start thumping them on the back.
Yeah.
But they're doing it in such a lackluster, like, oh, pain that we're inflicting on the Tractator. Just like, come on. So apart from those guys who were just in it because they're being paid as supporting actors, the majority of the crew are pretty good. But yes, William Lucas was fairly good. And then his daughter, I've seen her in something.
Oh, loads.
When I was growing up, a couple of series. What was her name?
She was in lots of things, wasn't she?
She was.
Was it May to December? What was her blimmin' name?
Trust
us not to know her name. I want to say Leslie Dunlop, but I'm not sure if that is her.
You might be right. Hold on, let's have a wee looky.
But I thought her and his performance, both of their performances, I just really liked them in it. They did definitely bring something to it when I was getting a bit bored.
Yeah, she was. I've definitely seen her in plenty of things.
Because she was in May to December, is what I always think of. Do you remember that 80s comedy?
Yeah.
So I think it's Leslie Dunlop is the
I think
is
you're
the
right,
actor's name, and the character name was Norma.
Yes.
Norma. But she'd got a bit of go to it. When she was confronted at the end, and she does stand up for herself. I thought she was quite a good character, and maybe should have been used a bit more, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
The character of Range that we just talked about. So that he stepped in quite late in production, didn't he? Because the original actor who was going to play it was murdered but just before they started recording. So he was quite a late addition, I think. I can't remember who the original actor was that was going to play the part of
Peter
Range.
Arm was going to play
Peter
it.
Arm, yeah. He went for a fitting for the costume for this story, and then went home and was stabbed to death or something.
Bludgeoned to death,
yeah. And so then he had to step in quite late in the day, I think. William Lucas.
He did, yeah. Stepped in, and so he was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought he was quite good.
Yeah, he was like he was almost like the calming voice of everything that was going on. So you had what's the character's name? Plantagenet. Such a cool name.
It's a good name, isn't it?
Yeah. So him and Brazen, they were very much like, as they've done countless times, like the Doctor's bad. Like he's turned up, bad things are happening. We don't know who you are. You must be eliminated immediately. That kind of attitude. Whereas Range was like, whoa. I feel like the Doctor's here to help. He's helped all these sick people. He doesn't seem threatening. Let's give him a go. So the way he played that was very cool, I thought. Yeah. The voice of reason almost. And then what about Plantagenet? So old Jeff Rawle, who's been in bloody loads of stuff, hasn't he, across his career. Any of our younger listeners will know him probably from Harry Potter, who played of
course, yeah.
What's his name's dad? Old R. Pats's character.
I don't know. I'm not really a Potter fan.
Cedric Diggory's dad, Amos Diggory, in the Goblet of Fire and stuff. So young fans will know him as that, but he's been in bloody hell. He's got a good CV, hasn't he? I'm looking at his list of stuff now on Wikipedia. Gosh, he's done loads. And he is just one of those faces I think you just recognise instantly, isn't he? He's so young in this, isn't he? Yes, he is, yeah, because he's 71 now. Yeah, he looks so young and thin, young and slim. Now he's a comfortable old guy. And just thinking, if he's 71, how old's Davison? Davison's 71. Don't think of Davison being 71, do you? You'll still think of him as being young. Yeah. Hold on a minute. He was in an episode of Steptoe and Son. Was he? They recreated a bunch of episodes, didn't they, years ago? Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah. He's still working today. Yep. So year before last, he was in the Canterville Ghost. Year before that, Father Brown, and then Peterloo, Holby City. Still rocking and rolling. Yeah. But his character was very intense at times. Very much in the Doctor's face, trying to retain control. Basically, trying to get across to the Doctor, like if he goes, he's like the leader of the human colony, if you like, up against the Tractators, and if he goes missing or is declared dead, then that's like a leadership crisis and everyone's going to riot and go mad. So he's trying to retain control but can't quite do it because of some I didn't get my head around that. What was the issue that he had with his heart or something? He just kept passing out and no, I didn't get it over either. Nothing. There was a bit where he was going to whack Turlough with the crowbar. He was going to slap him on the back of the head, but then he faints like halfway through, and then he has to get the old defibrillator out, and they bring him back to life. But I don't know, there was something wrong with him. Yeah. But anyway, very intense at times, but also really likeable at the end. If only he was like that in the beginning and stuff, because at the end he's so likeable, and I think that's just Jeff Rawle, just being a real likeable, nice guy. Coming through. Yeah. So, he was cool, though. I didn't mind his character. Yeah, no, he was good. I liked when he was trapped in that funny ball thing that the Tractators had him in, and then they try and put him in the excavation machine. Oh, gosh, that was funny when the other guy gets in it, who we were just Brazen, talking about, Range. No, not Range, sorry, Brazen. Brazen, yeah. When he gets in it, and he's kind of forced himself to pretend to be pulled in by it. He's like, leave me, save yourselves. I finished my line, continue. That's a great Amazing, scene. Yeah. But yes, no, sorry, back to Jeff Rawle. Yes, he was good at it. Like you said, would like to see a bit more of the nicer side at the end, because it takes him a long time to trust the Doctor. I mean, the Doctor saves his blimmin' life and he's still wary of him. A couple of times, saves him. Yes.
Yeah, grateful so-and-so.
Distrusting, yeah. Right, let's get to the TARDIS team.
Yes.
Let's get Tegan out the way. Janet Fielding, because it's one of those stories where if this was a video game, she would just be one of those side characters that pops up now and then to do a little side quest with not much substance. Did you feel like she had a good one in this story? Because
not at all.
No, because the couple of times that I've seen this now, when I've finished watching it, I thought, other than just sending her off to go and look for something a couple of times, she doesn't really have a great deal to do, bless her, does she?
No, she really doesn't. The only good thing she really gets to do is throw the lamp at the Tractators to save the Doctor at the start of episode 2. That's it. It's the only time she really gets stuck in. It's a penultimate story as well. She leaves in the next story, so it's a shame, isn't it, that she doesn't sort of get to do much in this one. Yeah,
she's cool though. She is Janet Fielding. She's awesome, isn't she? As Tegan, we know that. But
she's great. Nothing wrong with the performance. Yeah,
just wasn't written.
She just doesn't get much to do.
Not enough. Yeah. So, and then Mark Strickson. I struggle with Strickson in this one as Turlough because, and this is no disrespect to Mark Strickson at all, because I think he's quite happy with his performance in this, and he says in one of his interviews back in the day that he got the chance to sort of flex his muscles a little bit and do some proper acting, as he put it, and so on. But I can't get my head around what he's up to. What was the reason why he freaked out so much when he first saw the Tractators? Because him and Tegan go off, they're exploring, they're doing their thing, and he comes back out of where he sees the Tractators and he's in some sort of trance, and he can't snap out of it, and I don't know, he's like sweating all over the place. But why was he like that? Why did he go into that kind of trance when he saw them?
I don't know. I don't know why he's got this traitor trauma. It's just weird, isn't it? It really is. If we found out later that one of his family had died at the hands of a tractator, can't say it, but you know what I mean. There isn't enough. It's like they give him this little backstory, but it doesn't really make sense in the terms of why it affects him so much, unless there's more to it that we don't know. In which case, why do it in the first place? So yeah, I don't get why he's so flipped out by seeing the Tractators. I don't know. I mean, the flip side of that is it is nice to see Turlough get something else to do other than wander around buttoning up his jacket, because poor old Turlough, I mean, he's such an odd character that I really don't think writers knew what to do with him in many stories. So it's weird that he does act like that in this story, but on the other hand, it's just nice to see him doing something else. I think that's why Mark Strickson likes it, because he finally had something to do. Because they rarely know what to do with Turlough as a character, do they? The writers, he just wanders around. If he's not trying to kill the Doctor, then he's just sort of wandering around doing his jacket up. So yeah, I don't know. It's good to see him get something to do, but the reason for it is not very clear. Yeah.
So, because there's a bit, isn't he, where before he even sees them, he hears the word Tractators, and he's like, he's heard it before.
Yeah.
So there's something that's kind of triggered in his mind somewhere. But yeah, anyway, Strickson himself, I don't think he's bad as Turlough. He's playing it consistently, as you'd expect. But I don't know, I think it's down to Chris Bidmead, which is a shame that instead of giving him something of value to contribute in a lot of scenes, he just writes him as just this emotional mess that just has to be carried around a lot and be rescued every 5 minutes, it seems. And so yeah, I mean, it's a funny one. I think you're right. I think Turlough as a character can be quite tricky to write for because of his initial motive for being in the TARDIS team in the first place, which is spoilers, for anyone not in this era who's seen it, but it's essentially to kill the Doctor, right? He's been planted in the TARDIS team by the Master to kill the Doctor, which is the Black Guardian. Yeah, the Black Guardian, sorry. Yeah. Which is a great concept and a really good idea, but once you get past that, there's not much else really, you know what I mean, there's no meat on the bones after that. Anyway, we've used a lot of analogies in this episode, dude.
I know we have, yeah. Analogy mad.
And lastly then, Mr. Davison.
Yes.
What do you think is his performance? Because according to him at the time, he was pretty rocking and rolling with this script, didn't mind it. But then in hindsight, on the commentary, he's like, yeah, this is pretty mediocre. We could have done this in 2 parts. Not that great. You know, he wasn't really happy with it. But I think he's pretty cool in this one.
I think he's very good now. He's one of the highlights of the story, I think. Because he does seem to have, like we said before, Davison definitely seems to find a bit more fire in his belly as the Doctor in his last series. Is this the last series? It must be. In his last series,
yeah,
I mean.
it is, yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, I feel that. I feel that he's... there is a definite difference in the way he's playing the Doctor, and it's quite subtle, but it's definitely there. You know, like the scene when he first goes in and helps heal the dying man, and he's telling him basically they've got to do it themselves, and he's like, and you didn't see me, what did he say, I came and went like the summer cloud, and the way he delivers the line, and there's definitely a subtle shift in the way he's playing the Fifth Doctor. It's got more of a hardened edge to it, not so fluffy 5 that we've had in his first and probably second series. So yeah, I like him in this. I feel, apart from the end scene when he's being comical with Gravis, and I'm going to put that down to the direction more than Davison, I do really like his performance in this, because he hasn't got a lot to work with, to be honest with you, but what he has got, I think he really makes the most of it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I feel there's a bit more intensity to his performance, which I really like. I wish we'd seen more of his Doctor like that, because obviously by the time we get to Caves in a few stories' time, he's really ramped up that intensity. So I think it's really started to build quite nicely by this story.
Yes, yeah, I'd agree with that. There's some scenes where he is quite intense, and he has a little bit of range as well, where when he's unhappy with somebody, he's got that look about him, but instead of shouting like maybe Tom Baker's Doctor would do or something like that, he almost goes quieter, which is even more unnerving at times when he does that. And then he's also got the usual kind of just like, what's the word? Like when we spoke earlier about Plantagenet not trusting him for ages. He's almost got this exasperated kind of, what's wrong with you, man? Like, can't you see what's going on? And, I'm trying to help and all the rest of it. So he's got that very cool. And then at the end, when the Gravis is in the TARDIS, and he knows that by separating the Gravis from the other tractators, that's going to render them useless, essentially. So he knows that in order to do that, he needs to trick the Gravis into activating some of the controls. So he's kind of playing a bit dumb. He's like, oh, no. Don't
press that button.
Yeah, don't do that bit. And, oh, God, you mustn't press that. So, yeah, I think he had a decent range in this one. He had some sweet scenes. And, and just was pretty sweet as the Doctor. I mean, there's been a couple of stories. Like the story before this, The Awakening, I felt that he was a little bit flat in some of that. And you almost wanted to shake him and wake him up a little bit. But I felt the opposite to this one. I felt like he's alive a little bit more. And yeah, pretty good.
I felt he was into the story, which we often say with Davison, that sometimes you can just tell, maybe The Awakening being an example, he's not really feeling the story. But even though this one isn't particularly good, he must have seen something in the script that he liked, because I feel like he is giving like that extra sort of 10% in his performance. So yeah, maybe at the time he just saw something in it and thought this could be good, and then over time he's just realised that it didn't translate well to screen. But he's definitely given a bit more, I feel, in this one. I
would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. Okay, and then just very lastly, I've got nothing on my notes other than old Paddy Kingsland has discovered the panpipes synth sound.
Yes.
For this story. It's all over the place and just doesn't suit it at all for me. I don't know, it's got this kind of weird, I don't know, it's got this organic kind of feel to it, which is cool. But it just doesn't seem to suit the tone of the story. There's no menace to the soundtrack and there's not much atmosphere to it. It's just a kind of a jolly little tune on the panpipes throughout most of it. So quality-wise, it's pretty cool. You can tell at this point, in the mid-80s that, synthesizers are coming into a lot more and, sounds of its time, of course. But, yeah, Paddy's normally pretty sweet, but not hitting the mark for me on this one.
No, me either. In fact, I was finding it, even by the beginning of episode 2, I was finding it really irritating, actually. It's a shame, because I normally like Paddy's music. I think he's done some good stuff through Who. I normally like it, but no, really doesn't suit the story, and it's intrusive a lot of the time. It's almost as if there's no scene without music. I don't know, it seems to be all the way through every episode, just going on and on and on, and it's the only word I can use is intrusive. It doesn't suit it one bit, and it's annoying. The panpipe sound and everything, just, it's that same riff, as it's the same piece of music, just over and over again, pretty much, with a slight variation. It's distracting, and it doesn't help the story at all. And I didn't like the music one bit. It was really getting on my nerves, actually. By the end of the story, I was like, oh, that blimmin' panpipe, give it a rest. Yeah, it was. I found it irritating, which I don't normally get that annoyed by music, to be honest with you. But it overshadows a lot of scenes. It's too domineering. Yeah, not good. Not good. It doesn't help at all.
Yeah. Okay. Have you got anything else on your notes you want to mention?
Just that I talked earlier when we first started about how this story resonates with me for a few reasons, because of when it aired when I was a kid, and I talked about the fact I liked the Tractators as a kid, and I love the fragmented Tardis. That is another thing, because a bit like Bidmead, I've got a fascination with the inside of the Tardis, and so has he, and the Tardis in general. So again, as a kid, just loved that bit where the Tractators goes in the Tardis and it's got bits of wall all around it, and it just, I thought it was such a great idea and a great concept. I wish it had come into the story earlier. But the other bit I want to talk about very quickly is the bit where the Tardis is, in brackets, destroyed, and it's just a hat stand left, because when I was a kid, JNT had given this sort of quote to the newspapers that he was going to get rid of the TARDIS. He was going to get rid of the police box.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I remember that very clearly, and
really?
being horrified. Yeah, I do. I really do. I remember thinking, no, can't do that, because I love the TARDIS, love everything about it. And I think that's what very first drew me into Doctor Who, was the fascination with this blue box. And, you know, I told you that I turned my parents' wardrobe into a TARDIS. It fascinated me. So the thought of JNT getting rid of it horrified me. So when that cliffhanger aired, mate, I can picture myself in my bedroom. Don't know how old I would have been. What year was this?
84.
Anyway,
yep.
I can picture myself in my bedroom being mortified and thinking, oh my God, he's done it. He's actually done it. And so the anticipation to watch next week's episode to hopefully find out that the TARDIS hadn't really been destroyed, but you don't find out until the end. But I just, remember that so clearly, thinking, no, he's actually got rid of it. Oh my God, it's true. The newspapers are right. And thankfully it was all bluff. It was just publicity that JNT was great at producing. But that's what I mean. I have a lot of nostalgic attachment to this story, even though it's not particularly great, if you know what I mean. There are moments that I just loved as a kid. It's more visuals than the story. It's like stuff like that, like the coat hanger, coat stand, I mean, you know, being the destroyed TARDIS and stuff. I always love watching it because it just takes me back to being a kid watching it, and I can remember the emotions of this story, which it's almost a shame it doesn't stand up very well anymore, because I want it to be better than it is, because I just remember really liking it when I was small. But so it's a funny one. It's a funny one for me. I sort of get enjoyment out of watching it, but more out of nostalgia, I think, than anything else.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense, dude. Right, scores on the doors. I think it's me to go first.
It's you to go first, I believe.
I'm going to give this a shot right down the middle with a 5.
Giving it 5.
A 5 out of 10. Yeah, it's very, very middle of the road.
Yeah.
For me. Not much really to say on it other than I just didn't enjoy it past a 5 for those reasons that we've gone through in the review. But yeah, it should have been a great story because, as I mentioned, some of the ingredients are really cool. But for some reason, the universe hasn't brought us an explanation yet. The ingredients don't quite mix together to give us a decent enough story. But yeah, 5 from me. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm going to give it a 6.5. So I'm a bit higher than you on this one. Maybe a bit generous there. But as I said, I do get enjoyment out of certain scenes and certain elements of it. And I can see the potential in it as a story.
Yeah.
I agree, watching it last night, it doesn't hold together very well. But yeah, I'll go a bit higher, 6.5.
Nice. Okay, then. So a 5 from me, 6.5 from him. What did our listeners think over on the socials? Over on Twitter, Will Sanger says, honestly, I think it's a dreadful story.
Oh,
The cliffhanger to episode 1 is great, but it feels like it's a story that never evolves, with way too much wandering around some caves. The tractators don't work at all in execution, and the storyline with Turlo falls apart. Will, not a fan there. Our writer, Jordan Shortman, says, this has grown on me over the years, but it's not one of my faves, unfortunately. It's dark and grim, and that's fine, but for me it's a little too dark and grim. Still, the main cast are excellent and make for a great TARDIS trio, and the tractators are a good one-off monster.
okay.
Owen, Doctor Who Home, says, great set design, love the production quality of this, but as for the story itself, I'm drawing a complete blank. I'll have to revisit. All I can say is I remember it looking nice. Plus, the tractators are great. Chippy T says, not a bad first episode as a setup, but after that, exposition heavy with everything laid out for you. Ponderous villains and Frontios leaders who got them to the far reaches of the universe without knowing much about anything. Wood lice in space, 4.5 from me. I expected more.
Yeah, fair enough.
Michelle Hamilton says, I personally like Frontios. It's yes, it's dark and grim, but that was the general feeling for season 21. The Fifth Doctor has reached his stride. Great dialogue and acting. For me, it's an 8 out of 10.
An 8, blimey.
Nice one, Michelle. Paul Jobbo says, the tractators are great concepts, but poorly realised. And at the start of episode 3, they seemed related to the Zarbi, as they ran away screaming from the phosphor Tegan throws.
Oh, that's funny, isn't it?
Great design elsewhere, though. Clever use of lighting and perspective. The atmosphere and tension is well pitched, and a strong performance from Mark Strickson. Base under siege with a shouty man in charge. 7 Blake 7 Federation helmets out of 10.
Yay!
Yay! Cheers, Paul. And lastly on Twitter, welcome back, Sarah Louise, a running Whovian.
Hi, Sarah.
She says, a first watch for me, and I quite enjoyed it. Overall, a good cast performance, and the tractators were certainly memorable with their flapping hands and dramatically rigid tumbles. 7 out of 10.
Great.
Thank you very much. Over on Twitter and then on Facebook, we had a few over there. Martin Arnold says, Space, the final Frontios. My lingering memory is that ominous musical motif. It's a strange story. Like most of season 21, it's got a sense of impending doom and hopelessness to it, much like watching The Twin Dilemma. Laughing face. What happens to the colony leader, if memory serves, is pretty grim. Along with the music, I'm mostly reminding of a drooling Mark Strickson yelling tractators.
Yeah.
Story is in 2 halves as a result. Not sure that entirely works, but the atmosphere is really strong. I give it 7.5 exploding TARDISes out of 10.
Cool.
Thank you very much. Toby Coleman says, for a story I brought nothing. For a story I thought knowing nothing about, this is actually pretty decent. It's grim and foreboding, whilst not being too hard to watch. The cast are good, especially Tegan and Turlo. I also like the music. The tractator design is a little rubbery, but aren't most of the classic monsters. 7.5.
He likes the music. Wow, that's interesting.
Cool, Toby. And then lastly, Charlie Turner says, not too bad of a story, but not one of my faves. Still in my top 10 of Davison, though. Unsure of a rating for this one at this present time.
Fair enough.
Keeping us waiting. So more positive over on Facebook. I think the average scores are 7 for this, bud.
Yeah, to be fair, it's a bit higher than I thought. I wasn't sure how this would go down. I don't know about you. I thought the listeners might not be a fan of this one, but it's pretty average, isn't it?
It's a pretty average one, yeah. Yes. Very, very cool. Thank you very much, listeners, for giving us your thoughts and your scores out of 10. Muchly appreciated, as always. Right, let's leave behind Mr. Davison, probably for another year or so. And let's concentrate on the next story, which is, dude, for next week.
So, yeah, we'll be drifting back to some Hartnell story next week with The Reign of Terror.
Oh.
The Reign of Terror.
Dude, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't this one many parts? Or have I got that wrong?
Is it
it's only 6.
parter?
Yeah, 6, yeah.
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 Is it?
Okay.
What I can't remember is if it's animated or telesnap or both. I can't remember.
I think...
I think it's animated. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm picturing the cover, but I could be wrong. Anyway,
Yeah,
we
I
shall
don't know.
find out next week.
We'll find out. Yeah, next week. So back to some Hartnell First Doctor action for the Reign of Terror next week. Very good. And I think we'll wrap there, dude. Let's wrap it there for 374.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Big Blue Box. That was episode 374. Next week for 375, as Adam said, we're going to be reviewing the First Doctor story, The Reign of Terror. So get your DVDs out for that, get your BritBox fired up, and get that watched, because we'll be asking for your thoughts and your scores out of 10, etc. As always, in the meantime, make sure that you are following or subscribing to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as we put a new episode out every single Friday. You can also listen for free over on the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. And while you're there, you can also read and check out the amazing reviews and articles and editorial pieces from our amazing writing team. So give them a read and some love over there. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. The links are on the website. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, so come and get involved over there. Plus, we have a very cool free Discord server. Again, the link's on the website. Hop into Discord, have a chat with some very, very cool Who fans over there. Also, don't forget to remember to check out Adam's channel over on YouTube. It is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
Yes, go check out my YouTube channel, The Geeks Handbag, also on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok.
And TikTok at last. Yes. Go and do all the things over on Adam's channel.
I can't get into it. Just can't get into TikTok.
Oh dear. Righty, until next week.
Too old.
My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember, Aaaaaaaallons-y.